Well, Aces High was a very interesting script. It was basically taken from Journey's End, a very famous play that was made famous particularly because Laurence Olivier starred as Gresham. But the play was about the claustrophobia of the trenches in World War One, and the film script, of course, was about the Flying Corps and the sort of claustrophobia of being in a closed cabin, in an airplane. I thought they were really interesting characters, and it said something which I never really knew much about the Flying Corps, and that the average lifespan of a pilot was 17 days, and I was so shocked by that, and so I liked the script. I liked very much Jack Gold, who was directing it, and he's a fantastic director, and of course we had a great cast. Christopher Plummer and Peter Firth, especially Peter, because we see the sort of war through his eyes in a sense. That he's the young pilot, and he's a very, very good actor. He'd just done Equus in the West End of London, and he was touted for stardom and all the rest of it, and he was a very, really wonderful actor. He was a sort of very handsome, and I think in a weird way, Peter, I don't know what happened to his career, but listen, he's still working, so hey, good for him. He was wonderful in the film, and a lot of fun to work with. I really enjoyed working with Christopher too, because let's face it, Chris Plummer, bit of an icon. The Sound of Music man, and what's great about Christopher Plummer, is that he's a beacon for all us old actors, because there he is at 85 or whatever the hell he is, and he's being nominated and winning Academy Awards and all the rest of it. So he is somebody that we look up to, and we love and support. And of course, he's always been a great actor, and it was fun. I didn't take it too seriously, because my way of working is to, try and have a bit of fun, even though what we were doing was, of course, serious. But, listen, even though their lifespan was very short, they were comrades together, and I'm sure enjoyed a lot of practical jokes and all the rest of it, and laughed a lot just to get through it. Of course you had to think of something else. And what I remember, I think the most vivid memory I have is being on this airfield somewhere out past Northolt, and then them saying that we had a very special visitor this one particular day, and it was actually going to be Douglas Bader. Douglas Bader was a particularly a boyhood hero of mine, and that I knew all about him and read about his life. He was an amazing pilot, an ace. And what made him so special was that he had tin legs, and that caused by an accident before the war, but he was a flyer. And if you'd learned to fly before the war, you were ahead of the game, because most of the pilots never even made it to France. They ended up dying in the Channel. They couldn't even get the plane to where they were supposed to fight. But Douglas Bader was a flyer, and so he had this terrible accident before the war, and he had tin legs, and he managed to talk them into taking him back to fly fighter planes, Hurricane Spitfires or whatever. And he was an ace. I mean, he got, I don't know how many kills, but And then, of course, inevitably, of course, he was shot down, and in the wreckage of the plane, his tin legs were completely destroyed. So he would have lost his legs there. And what was remarkable was, and of course this is fairly early days of the war, where there was a certain amount of gallantry, not much, but a little bit, especially in the Luftwaffe and the Royal Air Force, is that they allowed a lone bomber to fly low, treetop level, over the prisoner of war camp where Bader was a prisoner, and dropped a second set of tin legs for him. He put them on and immediately, of course, tried to escape, which is what, of course, any good RAF man would do. And he was such a hero to us. And they made a movie of his life called Reach for the Sky, starring Kenneth More, which was, of course, every schoolboy's favorite movie. And so when he came onto the set, I was thrilled to meet him. And he also came in this Alvis car, which I had. You know, it was a very sort of rare, weird kind of car to have. And I was so thrilled, you know, and spent the afternoon just talking to him, and he was such a gent, you know. I wasn't aware, I didn't know the play, and the thing is this, I decided not to read it because we're making a movie, you know, and having to do the script. And so I think I had to take it on those terms, and how did the part work in terms of the movie. And of course it's a wonderful part of a very disillusioned man, you know, who can't let the sentiment of war interfere with him, and he holds it together as best he can, and, you know, screams at these recruits, trying to harden them up, trying to prepare them for the inevitable. It's hard to send someone out, you know, knowing that the chances are they will not come back. So I suppose, you know, it's very difficult. You can't make friends in those situations because, you know, emotionally you just completely destroy yourself. And I think, you know, just to get through it, you know, must have been something. And, you know, I know my father was, you know, in World War II, and he flew for the RAF Bomber Command, and, you know, I mean, it certainly left its mark on everyone. I think there were quite a few things that came through, but it's the only one that really interested me. I suppose because my father had been a flyer, and, you know, he never talked about it. I don't think they often do. It's, you know, the memories are probably quite horrific, although I did hear secondhand a story that he told about, you know, he was flying in Wellington bombers, and they had the tail end gunner, they used to call him tail end Charlie, and they were usually shot first. And he told a story of, you know, landing, the undercarriage shot out, and his friend was tail end Charlie, and he went round, of course he was strafed with bullets and dead, and he was really pissed off because the ambulance men stole his watch. And that's what made more impression on my father than anything else. He was still angry about it 35, 40 years later. They wouldn't let us fly, you know. I think they were just, there was insurance questions and all that, which is a shame. But I do think some of the flying sequences are the best I ever saw in a movie. The stunt pilots were incredible. And, you know, these wonderful old planes. It was so much fun to see them. Of course, you know, we had a lot of mock-ups and stuff. But, you know, the producer, Benny Fish, who was Polish, was an amazing man. He had flown with the Polish Free Air Force during World War II. And he was a pilot. I believe he was a pilot. And Benny, it was his, he did this, and he did Battle of Britain, which was a wonderful tribute to the Royal Air Force, of course. The Battle of Britain in World War II, I mean, arguably saved Western civilization as we know it. but of course at the time they didn't know it. So he was a remarkable man, Benny. Had a thick Polish accent still, even though he lived in England way more than he ever lived in Poland. He was a really a beautiful human being and very serious about, getting this out and paying tribute to the flyers, of which he was one. And I remember we teased him once because we had these tents, and they didn't put tents up with ropes. They were mock-up tents, and two guys would lift them up like this and move them, And so I think he was doing an interview and talking about the film, and behind him these tents were walking like. So the next day we're all waiting for a reaction, and the same smiling, charming Benny, and I thought, wow, not a word. He didn't say a word. And then suddenly somebody said, hey, did you notice anything? He went, you're wasting my money doing this, and now we have to redo it. And he went on a rant, but it was so funny. He was a great guy. It was really a pleasure working with him. And he got to fulfill a dream, which was fantastic. He was a lovely man. Well, Gresham is, in his own way, of course, a rebel, in a sense, is that, he's a hard man out of necessity. That really, Gresham, I'm sure, before the war, would be a very carefree, sort of relaxed individual. But the necessity of war and the horrors that he knew, and he was always on the brink of, a nervous breakdown, or being an alcoholic, being a drunk, basically. One can't really even begin to understand those feelings because, I have not, thank God, been through a war, and it's hard. You can try to put yourself in that position, and of course you can to a certain extent, but not really, because of course one is optimistic. I'm sure when the guys were landing on the beaches of Normandy, and they said, well, there's going to be a 50% attrition rate. It wasn't going to be me. It was probably going to be, and that's the only way you can get through it. That's how the human mind works, and that's the only thing that drives us on. And Gresham was a very complex and wonderful character. He was the kind of man that I would want on my side. And even though he was brought up, of course, by the English establishment, there was something very gritty about him and hard, and I think it's beautiful at the end, when it's very moving, as I remember. People were very moved. I love playing this part, of course I think at the beginning you think, oh, what a jerk this guy is, and he's hard on him. He's hard on, Peter Firth's character. He's this, but when you understand why, I think you realize that, of course, it's tough love. It's necessary, and it's the only way to try and protect them that he knew how. And, he knew the odds, what they were. He'd been there longer than anyone else, and but it was a wonderful, complex character, and yes, I enjoyed it very much. Actually, it was great. It was great to sort of to play a flyer, something that I could never imagine doing myself. So because I would never trust myself, I think I'd better stay firmly on terra firma. But I was thrilled to work with Trevor Howard because I've always loved him. And so I just went into his trailer to hang with him. And of course, I think he was a little bit irritated because he was trying to listen to the test match. He was totally obsessed with cricket. And, but I hung with him and, you know, feigned a bit more interest than I had, and just because I just always loved his work. I thought he was a tremendous actor. I did get to tease Chris Plummer because he had a scene coming up with Peter Firth where he had to get into a two-seat plane, biplane, and take off. And they had a dummy plane with a Ford Cortina engine in it that the propeller would start and it would just creep along at like 2 miles an hour. So it would move out of the shot, you know. So a couple of days beforehand, I'm having lunch with Plummer, and I said, you know, it's amazing these young actors today, you know, how seriously they take their craft. And he goes, oh yeah? Why's that? I said, well, this Firth boy is taking flying lessons. You know, it's wonderful, and he's you know, almost got his pilot's license. Not quite, he's close. Now here he's pretty good. He goes, oh, really? Really? Well, excellent. I go, and in fact, I think he's got a little surprise for you. He goes, really? What's that? I said, well, in that little scene you have, I think he's going to take off, but he's only going to just take off a few feet and come around and then just land back down. He went, really? I don't think so. I don't think that, I think we're insured for that. And I went, oh yeah, don't worry about it. So 2 days later, they get in, you know, and the character that Plummer was playing was called Uncle, you know. And he had a limp and all that, obviously got a war wound. And he gets into the plane, and the thing starts up, and suddenly the stick comes flying out of the cockpit. Plummer stands up and says, not on your life am I doing this. What do you think you are? And he just screams and gets out of the plane. And the director's there, the cameras are rolling, and he goes, Malcolm! He knew I'd done something. So he was coaxed to go back and reassured that nothing was going to happen. You know, what's great about this is that at the time, you know, people liked the film, but it wasn't, you know, a huge hit or anything, because it sort of fell in between two stools. I think it was about a war that was not very popular, and that everyone really wanted to forget. And it was also, you know, not enough action to be an action movie, and not enough psychological stuff to be a drama. So it was a bit of both.